Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. So today I'm here with another exciting series of videos, and I'm gonna call them advertising lessons from Hollywood. And I've picked two movie clips to prove my point here, to show something to you. It's a wonderful persuasion hack, which Dan Kennedy discussed in his book, The Ultimate Sales Letter. But before I talk about that hack, which is damaging admission, let's talk about persuasion in general. So, advertisers and copywriters they always say that persuasion is not limited to ad copywriting or web copywriting or any sort of copywriting. It's a big, ground. It's a big thing to cover. So, for example, I was reading Robert Collier letter book, and he talked of Prophet Muhammad, and he mentioned how persuasive he was and how he used persuasion, and there were some other examples as well. So other than religion, what could be other examples of persuasion? Let's say there could be politics. We know that politicians, they use a particular copy or persuasion trick a lot, and that's called them versus us. So they are bad, we are good, we are one team, and that particular group is bad. And it's an unfortunate and dark, part of human history. But Adolf Hitler, he used that trick against Jews, definitely. So you know all of that, like how he started, gradually, stereotyping Jews and, creating hatred against Jews. And eventually that grew into, that big catastrophe, that big trauma of human history, right? So that's a part of, there are copy lessons in everything because persuasion is so big. Whenever you are talking, basically, you're trying to persuade the other person, unless it's, random everyday talk. So, for example, when you are a teacher and you are teaching something in a classroom, basically you're trying to convince people. You're trying to sell something. You're trying to convince people. Definitely, when you're trying to sell some ideology, whether it's Marxism or socialism or thisism or thatism, that's all persuasion. Persuasion is big, and today's basically the video is about damaging admission, and I've picked two movie clips. First of them is from one of my favorite movies, The Great Debaters, and in that scene, he says, and I'm going to show you that.
Yes, sir, I do like to talk.
Is that a virtue or a vice?
Well, I have to admit, I've always wanted to be the quiet, mysterious type. Only I couldn't keep my mouth shut long enough.
Would you punch yourself in a street fight, Mr. Burgess?
No, sir.
Then don't punch yourself in a word fight. You don't have to make fun of yourself. Use your humor against your opponent.
So, as you would have noticed, he said that if you won't punch yourself in street fight, you shouldn't do that in word fight either, and that's true. But speech, basically, public speaking is also a form of persuasion. And while he was 90% right, he is not 100% right. There are exceptions to every case. There is a particular trick in copywriting which was introduced by Dan Kennedy, which is called a damaging admission. And I'm going to show you how to do that. But the best way to show you how to do that is to show you from a movie that I recently watched, The Gentleman. And that movie and the scene that I picked, it's amazing example of persuasion. The main character, he is a businessman. Basically, he is a weed seller, and he's trying to sell his whole weed business to another weed seller, right? And he's being very persuasive because price mark is so high. He's asking for $400 million. Now he has to justify that price, and when he tries to justify that price, the other person who is also a cunning and smart, businessman, a weed seller, he tries to counter his price and his argument, and in order to counter his objection, his customer's objection, the former weed seller comes up with a damaging admission. So it's very interesting. I'm going to show you that, and you will see how he uses the damaging admission.
Watch your head. Carry on, chaps.
England's green and pleasant land. Those are some nails.
Location, staff, technology. So you're buying the substructure for the superstructure to come. And with purchase, you would inherit the best sites available, the finest botanists and herb sommeliers in the world, as well as the most innovative marijuana technology on the planet. And when this little piggy goes to legal market and the demand way outpaces the supply, these locations, these green-fingered botanical boys, as well as my superior technology, will be at a premium. And you would own them all. Did you know it took 15 years after alcohol prohibition ended back home for the legal market to scratch that itch? 15 years. And that's if you do nothing with it. Yes, it's a win-win no matter how you look at it. And I'm not greedy. You and I both know that 400 million is a fair to generous asking price. Especially considering that once this game's kosher, it's going to be worth somewhere between 200 billion and, well, £500 billion annually. Weed, bush, skunkamola, White Widow super cheese. It's the new gold rush. This is the thin end of a very fat wedge, sir.
If it's such a fat wedge, why don't you keep it?
See, I've developed a reputation as a man who came up the hard way. You could say that there's blood on these pretty white hands. But in the new business, once legal and under the jurisdiction of the respectable umbrella of ministerial legitimacy, an enterprise like this will need a face with a clean past, which sadly, I do not possess. Retirement doesn't sound so bad. Long walks in the countryside, pruning roses with my better half, raising some cubs. I've earned it.
Now, you must have noticed how he tried to use damaging admission, and that was very interesting, right? So, what is damaging admission, basically? If you read this book, you can find this out. But in simple words, damaging admission is a very smart technique. Your customers are already aware of a lot of things about you. So as David Ogilvy said that your customer is not an idiot, she is your wife. What he was trying to say is that don't try to fool them. So you have to do proper research. You have to understand every possible question and objection that they can come up with, and you have to have answer to those questions. And you have to counter those objections. So damaging admission is a trick that you use when you know that in response to a particular persuasive stance, in response to a particular claim, your target customer would come up with a particular objection. Now you're already aware of that objection, and you know that that objection would come. You are not naive. You know that that's the first thing that would come to their mind. For example, if I am a new copywriter and I don't have much experience, I'm trying to sell my copywriting services, the first objection that I know my clients would have in their mind is that if you're so good, if you're as good as you say, where is the proof? Like, where are those shining video testimonials like those that best copywriters have? So I don't have them, right? So I have to have a damaging admission ready for that. That, okay, yes, I don't have those shining video testimonials, but I am keen on learning. I'm learning a lot. I'm growing with a very fast pace, and I have time. Time is something that those busy and big and famous copywriters don't have. So I would be fully dedicated to your task while they won't be. So that's an example of damaging admission. But here's a very good example of damaging admission from Dan F. Kennedy's book. And I, zoomed in on it so you can read it easily. So basically, he was writing for some restaurant, which was not a very famous restaurant, and he knew that, and he made a damaging admission. And here is the admission: if you want waiters in tuxedos with white linen clothes over their arms, menus with unpronounceable words all over them, and high-priced wine served in silver ice buckets when you go out for Italian food, our little restaurant is not the place to come. But if you mostly want good, solid, home-cooked pasta with tasty sauces made with real vegetables and spices by a real Italian mama, and will trade white linen for red and white checked plastic tablecloths, you'll like our place just fine. if you're okay with a choice of just two wines, red or white, we'll give you as much of it as you want from our famous bottomless wine bottle, free with your dinner. So it's basically a small pasta restaurant, right? So it's a mom and pop kind of establishment, and they know that they are not as rich and steeped in culture and luxurious as those big restaurants would be. They already know that. They know that this objection would come, so they already counter that objection with a very warming attitude that you would feel at home. They mention of Italian mama and bottomless less wine bottle. So where do you get bottomless wine bottle? Definitely not at a restaurant. You get that at some a very hospitable friend's house, right? So the point of damaging admission is basically to appear honest, to appear truthful. This way, you win your target customer's sympathies, and you win their trust. And most importantly, when you give them one reason, one weakness, they might think that that's the only weakness, and they wouldn't think any further about you or your business or your claims. But when you wouldn't give them any weakness at all, and when you would sound like Tai Lopez of your business while you're actually just a novice freelancer from Fiverr, they would definitely catch you. They would definitely see through your BS, and they would definitely call that BS, and you will fail to sell whatever you're trying to sell. So the purpose of damaging admission basically is to counter objection with a very smart counter objective objection trick, right? So you counter that, you give them one reason to doubt your services, and you counter that reason in a very polite and good way, in a way that actually makes that disadvantage looks like an advantage, right? You do that, and this way you stop them thinking about any other disadvantages that you or your product or your offer might have. So this was the first video in this series. Let me know if you liked it, and let me know if your feedback. Kindly subscribe to my channel if you love my content. Thank you very much.